And literally I had that moment where my soul kind of popped out of my body for a moment. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, when I think about movies, I think about like the Marvel movies where they get hit and their soul comes out of their body, you know, or like the Matrix a couple of times, like when he flexes and everything around him moves and flexes with him, or when he first takes the pill and he touches the mirror, you know, and pulls it out with his finger. So I kind of had a little bit of a weird moment like that, and I was like, shit, what have I got myself into? Hello, it's Saturday. Just want to say I am going to be able to pay half my rent, which I think is better than nothing. And I've paid off my credit card. Thank you to you guys and your donations, which I never actually expected when I turned the camera on. I turned the camera on when I felt the world was closing in on me and I had nowhere else to go. And I just thought, I'm going to turn the camera on. And that's what happened. And now it's an exercise in sort of trying to get myself out of a certain place and moving up into a better place. And a lot of good things have been happening. I won't say that I've been as consistent as I would like in some things. I'm not running as much as I should, which has to change, but I am getting a lot more sunshine. I am getting more exercise when in the form of walking and so on, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, I was just looking at like where we were talking. We were doing like, we were going back, looking at stuff, some of my favorite interviews, that sort of thing. And we've gotten to like MVCI, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. That was that's a launch. Yeah, I don't know if I want to talk about that today, to be honest, although I really enjoyed interviewing all of these guys, but in particular these were my first interviews with Alex Valle and Sajam, and you know, there's probably some bits and pieces there that are worth talking about. But what I'm going to talk about today is not going to be Street Fighter or fighting games or anything like that. I've decided that I'm going to talk about my psychedelic experience because it's fun and that's what I want to do on this warm Saturday evening. And I said I would anyway. So I had read a book called, this was probably pre-COVID, I think, or maybe it was during COVID. But I had read a book called, no, I think it was during COVID. I read a book called How to Change Your Mind. I would definitely recommend reading that book, particularly if you have addictions or suffered depression, that sort of thing, right? I would recommend reading it anyway because it's fascinating. It's all about the more recent sort of information on the use of psychedelics in the fight against depression, the fight against addiction, and various other things. Psychedelics can be used in a controlled environment to rewire your brain, allowing you to get rid of old and bad habits and replace them with new and useful habits, or bad thoughts and replace them with good thought processes, etc. I'm underselling it because it's actually a really fantastic book. I believe you can watch it on Netflix as well, but I've never watched it on Netflix because I watched about 10 minutes and it seemed to not be doing the book justice, in my opinion. But maybe I'll try watching it again sometime. But the book was really good, really good. Like, just so many good anecdotes and stuff in it. Anyway, I decided, well, you know, I'm kind of sick and tired of this bullshit and I would like to try this. So I got in contact with various people and got talking to somebody who sort of, there's a bit of an underground network in regards to this whole thing. Even though there are many things that are actually becoming legal. So in New York, I think they have ketamine clinics, which do a similar type of thing. There may be MDMA clinics, possibly, or on the verge of being, but they're certainly in other places. I think they might be legal. And a lot of it involves you basically experiencing something in a controlled environment and then, you know, talking with a therapist or whatever, and going through the process. I forgot what the process is called, but there's a process of kind of processing the experience, right? Which is really helpful in rewiring your brain and your thought processes and all that sort of stuff, right? And also you can also have these sort of moments with God, or whatever you want to call them, these kind of really powerful, extraordinary moments, which will change your view on life itself. So there's a lot. In fact, I want to read that book again now. That's the thing I want to do when I put this camera down or upload this video or what have you. But I was talking to the guy, and we were talking about various things, and he had basically said to me, listen, you should go for the toad. He had some good reasoning behind it. I cannot remember what it was right now, even though it's supposed to be like the most hardcore one. But I think part of it is that it's a cleaner experience. So you don't actually have visions. You don't really see much. You don't see things, but you can have an out-of-body experience, right? Along with a few other different types of experiences, but it's not quite the same as seeing stuff, right? But you can certainly have the ego death. They call it the God molecule, they call it the toad. I believe it's called 5-MeO-DMT, but I might be wrong about that. And there are plenty of videos on YouTube which explain people's experiences with it as well, and how it changed their lives. And people can, like, genuinely, their lives can change completely. Their view of the world, their view of everything can change. So I thought, yeah, let me do this. And so I went to see a shaman in Connecticut. I'm going to call her a shaman. I don't know what the right terminology is. Went into this room overlooking this beautiful, like, wood or forest or whatever the hell it was. It's just really lovely, and surrounded by all these, sacred things and rocks and crystals and all that stuff. And I was supposed to smoke this stuff, so I took one light tug, and you take a small tug first just to test it. And literally I had that moment where my soul kind of popped out of my body for a moment. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, when I think about movies, I think about like the Marvel movies where they get hit and their soul comes out of their body, or like the Matrix a couple of times, like when he flexes and everything around him moves and flexes with him. Or when he first takes the pill and he touches the mirror, and pulls it out with his finger. So I kind of had a little bit of a weird moment like that. And I was like, shit, what have I got myself into? And I thought, well, there's no going back now. Let's do this. But it was scary, actually, to be fair. And then I took on a full-on, what you're supposed to do. Took on the full-on toke, or the 3 tokes, or whatever it was. I can't remember. And I just flopped down. Now, there's a few things I remember. One of them is that, there was a point where I was crying, but I had my eyes closed. I was crying so hard underneath my eyes that my eyes burst open, and the tears sort of almost flew out and came streaming down my face. I actually have made a video of it at the time. I've gotten rid of the video now, but I wanted to watch the video back just to see what it'd be like to see something while you're completely lucid. But the main thing was that I didn't actually have the ego death. And, I remember reading on Reddit all this stuff about, when you're ready for the ego death, you'll have the ego death, but if not, then you won't, and blah, blah, blah. But I was talking to something, right? Something that I can't explain, but I was having a conversation with something, and I was saying to it, why won't you let me die? Originally meaning ego death, but I was also in have been through some very dark places in my life, and gradually the why won't you make me die, I was like begging it, why won't you let me die, why won't you let me have the ego death? And it gradually became something else. Like, it became, why won't you let me die, just became, why won't you let me die? I mean, for those of you who know, you know what I'm talking about. It's not that subtle. But I was like, well, why won't you let me die? And I felt this hand on my head. It wasn't there, by the way, because I watched the tape back. But I felt this hand on my head stroking me. and then a voice laughing at me, but not in a malicious way, in a loving way, laughing and saying, it's okay, Mark, you don't get it, it's okay. And this is when I was crying, right? So I was having a moment, and I was feeling this stroking, and I think the voice was like a version of me, like a higher version of me, or a subconscious or something. I don't know the answers, right? I just can tell you what happened or what I experienced. It's a bit different from yesterday's video in that respect. And I could feel the stroking, and it's okay, you don't get it, it's fine, you don't get it. And I interpreted that at the time to mean it's not your time. It's not your time for the ego death, but it's not your time to die. Sounds like a James Bond movie, No Time to Die. It's not your time to die. And actually that changed my perspective. I never ever once after that really thought about that. You know, after that experience, I never thought about leaving. That completely changed. Like, there was no ideation, you know, about leaving. So whilst I left that experience thinking, you know, I didn't get what I wanted to get, maybe I got what I needed, you know, I don't know. But yeah, it was interesting. And then the processing that happened over the following days was really interesting as well. And there was definitely a moment of, there were moments of clarity which were incredible. It was so freeing because, you know, like, I've got so much going on in my head, it's a mess. But the moments of clarity were crazy. Like, I would think about, like, the next day, I think it was, I was wandering around in the park in Astoria, and I was thinking to myself, you know, what job should I get? And it was like, doesn't matter, just get a job. It was, and that sounds like an odd thing to say, but it felt like a relief and just pure clarity. As the days went by, like, you know, I started to return to myself, but there was definitely some marks left on me and some things that changed in the way that I thought. So, yeah, I don't know. If you've got any questions, let me know. Or if you've had any experiences yourself, let me know. Be interested to hear them, be interested to read them. But yeah, just thought I'll talk about that today. So I did. So thanks everyone for tuning in as always, and I'll see you next video.